everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Ana Martinez, and I'm so excited to have you all here. Today we've got a fantastic session where we'll be learning about youth-driven data and exploring some resources to meaningfully engage young people and create more intentional after-school programs. So now let me introduce you to our host, Angelica. We have Angelica Portillo. She has a ton of experience in the out of school time field. She's the former director of advocacy and workforce initiatives at the National After School Association, where she did some incredible work to elevate job quality for after school professionals across the country. And we have Daniel Hatcher. Daniel has been with Alliance for a Healthier Generation since 2018 and is currently their senior director of strategic partnerships. He's been all over the country leading workshops and conferences, and he's played a big role in developing national standards for healthy eating and physical activity in after-school programs. He also has a bachelor's in international relations and a master in public health. So with these two amazing hosts, we're going to get started with some insights and practical tips. So I'll pass it on to you, Angelica and Danielle.
All right, I will try and make sure I was unmuted, and I was unmuted. All right, well, hello everyone. Like it was mentioned, I'm Angelica Portillo, and I'm super excited that we are going to share some data with you all. And I love that we have a small group because that means we get to be really interactive. And Daniel has a lot of activities for us to do. So if you want to come off camera, great. If not, you can stay off camera, but we are going to have some sessions or some activities that's going to require you to spend a little time talking to us and maybe show a drawing or two. So I'm going to let Daniel quickly talk about his organization and why he's on this call, and then we'll dive into the agenda.
Thanks, Angelica. Super happy to be here with my friend Angelica and all of you. And if you're watching the recording, super happy to get to meet you virtually. I'm going to drop my LinkedIn in the chat. I work for Healthier Generation. We do whole child health work all across the country in partnership with folks like all of you. So if you're looking for training and resources related to nutrition and physical activity, youth voice, social emotional health, mental health, then reach out. Would love to work with you. So I'm super pumped to be here with my friend today.
Awesome. That's good. And yes, connect with Daniel on LinkedIn. He is, I would say, a LinkedIn influencer. Always posting, has incredible posts, and always sharing valuable resources. So give him a follow. All right. So for our agenda today, we're going to do a little warm welcoming activity. We're going to do an overview of the Powered by Youth Voice survey, which is really incredible new data that we have, basically youth telling us what they want to see in after school programs. We're going to explore the research questions. We're going to engage with them a little more. Then we'll have a reflection, a quick action planning, and then we'll have a really neat closing out activity. And we really hope that you walk away with new information from the national data, methods for youth empowerment. So how can you use this to empower youth voice? And then how do we create programs that respond to their needs and wants? And now I'll hand it over to Daniel for our first activity.
Thanks, Angelica. All right, so I'm on the East Coast, so it's 12 o'clock. I'm sure it's quite a bit earlier in Alaska, but hopefully this will be a good morning energizer for you. But, we're talking about youth voice and youth advocacy and engagement today. And one of the important things I find is really feeling grounded before you ask young people to do public speaking or to give a presentation or put them in the spotlight. So we're going to do a little stretch activity. Hopefully you can keep that in your back pocket as you work with young people. And you can even use it for yourself. So I'm calling this a shimmy, sway, and stretch break. I learned this from my dear friend Tara Stiles at Strala Yoga. So wherever you are, I'm going to do this on video. If you want to come on video and be silly, you're welcome to do that. So we're gonna shimmy back a little bit. And thank you, Anna, for putting the link in the chat. So shimmy back a little bit. And I want you just to stretch out your arms, and we're just gonna kind of sway like a tree. Take a big deep breath. So no matter what's going on today, just take a nice moment to sway. And we're gonna stretch up, reach to the sky. How you feeling, Trey? I see you stretching. Thumbs up. And then let's stretch down a little bit. And we're just gonna end by like shaking out our wrists a little bit. We've been typing a lot this morning. Hopefully that will give you a little bit of ease and comfort as we go in our chat today. And make sure to make yourself comfortable as we talk. You can stand, you can sit, you can lean back, you can lay on the ground, whatever works for you. It's always easier to learn when you're comfortable. So definitely please be comfy while Angelica and I are chatting with you today. And again, put the link if you want to. There's a whole mindfulness playlist that my friend Tara created for y'all, so you can check that out after our class today. All right, well, let's keep moving. You know a little bit about us, so we want to learn a little bit about you. So this activity is from Healthier Generation, and it's called Silly and Speedy Conversation Starters. And yesterday when Angelica and I were doing some prep, we were looking at those questions and trying to decide which one that we wanted to use. So the question of the day is, what are 5 favorite things about yourself? So take a second, maybe grab a sheet of paper, just jot down real quick, five things. I think the faster you do this, the better, because you're just picking things out of your head. You don't think too much about it. Five favorite things. And Angelica, I want to pick on you if you don't mind. What's one of your favorite things about yourself?
My smile.
I love it. Yes. I feel like whenever I see you, you're like have such a good welcoming presence.
That's what I do.
All right. So let me ask the crowd. Drop in the chat. What's something that you love about yourself? You could just put in one thing. You could put in 2 things. You could put in your whole list, whatever you want to do. But tell me something that you appreciate about yourself. And you can come off mute too. What's your favorite thing about yourself? Optimistic outlook. Thank you, Liz. Your sense of humor. Thanks, Anna. Enjoy travel, Kathy. Devin is a people connector. Trey, my skin color. I love that. Stephanie says, having a sense of humor no matter what. Awesome. All right. Well, we got a lot to cover today, so I'm gonna toss it over to Angelica. But I hope you enjoyed that quick conversation starter. And you know, at the end of the day, feel a little bit better about yourself by taking a minute to celebrate yourself. So over to you, Angelica.
All right. Gwendolyn said one of the items is cooking healthy food, which I think is going to be pretty neat coming forward. So thank you all for sharing. All right. So the first question, we're just going to sit for a minute and reflect on this question. And I want you all to think, what do you think young people find meaningful about their current experiences in their after school program? So I'm going to give you 1 minute just to think about that. And then if you want to come off mute or put it in the chat, I like to know when they're in your program, what do you think young people find meaningful about their experiences? I'm seeing great engagement in the chat, new experiences, relationships with both peers and trusted adults, not a repeat of school, making new friends, connecting with others, feeling heard, a social climate. Definitely the connective piece, being heard, being seen, having dedicated people to come to school and bring activities, making fun, learning fun. Definitely. We, Daniel and I did this session in person in South Carolina for the past few days, and very similar. We heard this exact thing. So that makes me happy to know that young people are getting those experience in your program. So thank you for showing up and creating great experience for the young people that you serve. So to move on a little bit, we are going to now go into the Powered by Youth Voice data. So through the grant support of the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation, Every Hour Counts. Every Hour Counts is a national organization that supports local intermediaries throughout the country. For example, I'm here in Dallas, Texas. We have an intermediary called Dallas Afterschool, and they help support the quality of after-school programs in Dallas County. We have one in San Antonio. We have one in Austin. There's an organization in the Bay Area. So there's all across the country, there's these different local intermediaries that support after school programs. And Every Hour Counts is kind of the national convener for that. And they partnered with Youth Prize and Informed Change and my consulting to really figure out authentically, what do young people want when they think of designing after school programs, and what direction do they think the field could go in? So they really centered youth voice in this project, and they really wanted to see, what do young people need? What do we need to hear from them? So I'm excited to kind of talk a little bit about the survey data. And like I said, we'll be interactive with it and have some reflection pieces. So this, as I mentioned, was very youth driven. A lot of this was done with youth at the center, and there were 60 youth brought together from After School Matters in Chicago, the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Flint, Kalamazoo Youth Development Network, the Nashville After Zone Alliance, the Providence After School Alliance, and Primetime Palm Beach County in Florida. So kids from all over the country came together to really provide their insight and focus on this data. And the survey was actually co-designed with the youth. There's closed and open-ended questions on the survey. And when I give you the full link to the survey, you'll be able to see that it's at the very end. You'll get to see what the students were asked. And so this was, as I mentioned, very youth-centered. And so now we'll go into the data. So who responded to the survey? 1,087 young people participated in 321 after-school programs, and there was at least one person responded from the 37 states. But of course, we see that 94 of the respondents were living in these 11 states. So I think we had we have a couple of people on the call that are from these states. So hopefully you see your state represented. And if not, well, if this survey gets done again, maybe your students will. But I think that's very interesting that we at least got a national representation. And so when we look at who responded to the data, a little more than half of the respondents were in the middle school and early high school range, so from 12 to 14-year-olds. And I thought this was really interesting because it's middle school students. I'm like, you can't get middle school students to do anything. So the fact that they were able to fill out the survey and put in really great responses, I was very proud. And then I reflected on that piece. And the other thing I was thinking about is when I was running an after school program, I was definitely working with elementary age students and thought, how does this really apply to me? And I thought, well, if we're getting students excited about after school in elementary school, we know that it'll carry on to middle school and ultimately high school. And middle school is, please put in the chat if you work with middle school students, but it's very challenging at that age because they really can start deciding what they do after school on their own. You know, if they want to leave because they want to walk home with a friend or two, they can do that. If they have other club or other things they want to do after school, they can just go. No one's really keeping track of them the way we do in elementary school. So that's how I really saw this data when thinking about, is it for me? Yep, ages preschool to high school. That's a great range. Yep, middle school. Awesome. Thanks, Devin. And so when we continue to look at the data, we see that almost half of the young people identified as Black, African American, followed by Hispanic, and then white. And then we also have other races identified and ethnicities identified here. And so I think when I was thinking about my programs that I served in my community, I was like, this is pretty reflective. Being in my region, we probably have a little more of Hispanic, Latinx, but I still think that we have a good representation of who we're serving in after school here. And then who responded to the survey, we had 55% identified as female. So go girls, we showed up, but also very interesting to see for this data. And then when asked how often these students participated in their current after school program, many said 4 or more days. So I thought that was really great that we're getting data from students that are actively using a product, essentially, right? Like they're actively coming to their after school programs. They want to be in their after school program. So listening to what they want to see is really important. And so I want to know in the chat, does this kind of reflect your programs or doesn't reflect your programs, kind of reflects your programs based on the demographics that were just shared? See, then yes. Awesome, I'm seeing 2 yeses. I love that. All right, so now let's get into what the youth were actually, what they were asked. So here are the 3 research questions that really framed this research and the survey and this work overall. So 1, what do young people find meaningful about their current experiences in their after school programs? The one we just answered. The second was, what is missing from after school programs that youth would find meaningful? And the third is, how can after school programs be more meaningful in the lives of young people? So as I mentioned, we're going to engage with these questions. So let's get to the data. So when asked, what do you think young people find meaningful about their current experience in after school programs? We saw overwhelmingly that students said that they find acting in leadership roles and learning how to manage money as the things they found most meaningful. And then following that, we have working on social justice issues, wellness and self-care activities, developing career skills, mental health support, physical movement, preparing for college, learning safety skills, and entrepreneurship. Does that surprise anyone that those what youth find meaningful?
This is Gwen. Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm happy to see acting in leadership roles because that's something, that I do. I'm probably sure everyone on the call does, but for it to be rated high, with learning how to manage money, it's pretty, I mean, it's good, but it is surprising to me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I also think that we have the next data slide will also be pretty interesting to see in the common theme throughout the data findings. So I'm gonna, oh, go ahead, Devin.
Yeah, I was just going to share as well that it's not surprising to me that our young scholars see themselves in an active way within leadership through My Brother's Keeper, My Sister's Keeper, and then also as well in managing, that financial literacy piece, because they are the products of these environments in which one has to work 40 hours, 60 hours a week and take one's paycheck, give 4% of that to someone to cash a check and then give the rest to the landlord So our children are very acute with understanding the environment and the systemics of that situation. I wouldn't be surprised at all with regards to leadership, because our children are simply saying, we see you as adults, but when do the adults see us as leaders, right? So when we sit at this table right here, how many children are here? Who was invited here? When we see them in those leadership roles, whether it's the belt meeting, whether it's the CPT meeting, right? Or whether it's the equity meetings, right? And then we sit in these schools, but we always have boards full of adults. And then we're always asking, one question is, what do the kids want? And then guess who's never at the table? Right, or quite, so the voice of it also. For me, am I surprised? No. I mean, if you took a vending machine and you filled that vending machine, instead of soda full of books, and you filled another one full of salads and such, or healthy meals, and then you also had a line where they had to walk through and grab lunch from the cafeteria man and woman. I'm pretty sure that, if they get to make their own conscious decision, they want what's healthy for their bodies. It's almost like if you gave a kid, the opportunity for an entire year to say, "Hey, listen, we'll keep building your financial backing if you decide you want the best parts for your car. Do you want to stay after school and promote your leadership?" Right? Like, that's getting you the best part for your vehicle. Most of the kids want what's best for them. All right. We kind of like, we stand in the way of that by saying, "Oh, well, we use this broad stroke of a paintbrush to say, oh, these kids these days, they don't want to." No, it was a three-time Olympian, Amon St. Brown's father from the Detroit Lions, who said, there really isn't lazy children. It's just lazy parenting. Children will do whatever they need to do to make it right. If we decide to stand in their way, then that's on us.
Devin, just straight facts, as someone said in the chat. I really appreciate that. And I like when you said, we see the adults, but do they see us? Because Daniel, what he keeps reinforcing when we present this data is that these youth are telling us what they want. So what are we going to do about it? And I think that's why it was so important for us to combine our knowledge on this presentation, because we have the data, we want to share it. How do we make these programs even more impactful than they already are? So thank you so much, Devin. So to engage with this data a little further, we have our next question, and I'll hand it over to Daniel to kind of lead
Thanks,
us.
Angelica. Well, I love this reflection activity. I think it gets to a lot of what Devin was sharing, is that y'all also know what kids need and want. And with us coming together, we become this powerful unit of sharing ideas and reinforcing what we know young people want, and figuring out creative ways to put systems in place to support them. So we're bringing those things to life. So I want to ground us a little bit in the concept of meaning. And again, knowing that so many of you all are the experts. And to honor that, we're going to do a reflection called Draw It. And this is going to be a 3-minute reflection. And all you need is a blank sheet of paper, just a scrap sheet of paper, and something to draw with. So pencil, pen, marker, whatever you got. And if you're like, I'm just going to sit back and do this as a visualization, that's totally okay too. So I want you to draw a reflection on meaning. Like, what do if young people in your program were to tell you what's meaningful about the work you do together, what would they draw? And I want you to think about that as you just do this drawing. Again, free flow, no right or wrong way to do this. I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes, but draw what young people find meaningful about the work you all do together. So I'm going to get the timer going. So 3 minutes. What would young people say? What would they draw? What's meaningful about the work you all do together in your program? We'll have a chance in a second to share. Just thinking about meaning. What would young people say meaningful about the work you do together? Or at the 2-minute mark, good time to take a big deep breath. Just know there's not a right or wrong way to do this. I just want you to reflect on the meaning. On the 1-minute mark, so take another big deep breath. And even if you're watching the recording, I hope you're giving yourself permission to just take a minute and do this drawing. What do young people find meaningful together in your program? About 20 more seconds. All right, that's time. So I would love to hear from folks if you're willing to share your drawing and tell us a little bit more about meaning. Thank you, Kathy. Conversation and action. Appreciate it. I'll show you my drawing. So I made like a heart and put in a few little people. I was just thinking connection and inclusion. I think in all the work that Healthier Generation does, our work in supporting inclusion is probably the most meaningful. Stephanie, yeah, the floor is yours.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So let me see. I did a stick drawing. You probably may not be able to see everything, but basically it's two buildings which represent the school and their home, and the program recognizing that they're finding where they fit, and that the connection is from school and home. And there's the family, and that's important that kids feel like, I fit, I have a purpose, and I'm still finding more of myself, and the connection starts at home, but it continues in school, after school.
That's beautiful. And that's perfectly said. I also really like the cat that you drew in your drawing, Stephanie. How you feeling, Angelica? I just want to see that. That looks similar.
Okay, yeah, I drew. So this was like my program that I ran. These are tables that the kids would sit at. And then that's a rug that we did like circle time. And then these were the different centers that we had. So I have like literacy, the arts, and then we have like a science, had like Legos and things that can connect and like science stuff. So I like the exploration of interest that kids had in my program. It's my drawing.
Thanks, Angelica. I know you're going to get to it, but I feel like that's very much in alignment with this data.
Right. So that will lead us to our next question. Our next question that students were asked were, what do you think is missing from after school programs that you would find meaningful? And the survey said, when asked what activities they wish were available in after school programs, young people most frequently said they wanted cooking. They also wanted physical movement, learning how to manage money, gardening, entrepreneurship, outdoor activities, preparing for college, mental health support, music, singing, and instruments, and art. I'll give you a second to just look at these things that students said were missing from their programs. And then, of course, any initial thoughts or questions that you have on that. Or any themes. Yes, Stephanie, go ahead. You're on mute.
Hi. It's very interesting that art is on the lower part of the spectrum because most schools, they feel that that's really what the kids want.
Mm.
I always hear this resounding, oh, let's bring art in, let's bring art in. And art is therapeutic. It's a way to show expression. But it's interesting because I don't know, well, you guys are kind of on the younger end. I think I'm a little bit older than you all. But when we went to school, we had home ec, and not to sound like it was just for girls. No, we had guys in home ec, but it was very rewarding to go in and actually learn to put things together. And then to actually say, you know, my grandma has a recipe that we did, and it's cultural, it's learning about science, it's math, it's measurement. So I could see why cooking would be at the top tier.
Right. Yeah, when I was in high school, home ec became an elective. So it was, you could choose to take it. I still remember learning how to sew. It did not improve my cooking skills by any means, but I at least know how to measure things out. Except for pancake batter, that always messes up for me. It gets too liquidy. I don't know why I get it wrong, but yes. Any other insights to this data, or do you see a theme on what the theme here is of what these youth are asking for?
Angelica, I think it's interesting that cooking is high on this list, and then on the previous list was learning how to manage finances and financial literacy. And the theme I'm getting, and I feel like folks in South Carolina, when we gave this presentation on Tuesday, shared this. It's just the need for real life skills right now, and learning how to get by and to create a sustainable life. So I think that's fascinating. I also wonder, looking at this list, I feel like so many of these things are interwoven. Like to me, like art and cooking is art. So maybe there's, I know we these are kind of split up, but maybe there are ways to creatively look at some of these things that kids want and weave in other things as well. Like cooking has so many opportunities for leadership, or even physical movement is mental health support can be woven with physical movement. So spending time in nature. So maybe it's leading with some of the key themes that we know young people want or feel like are missing, but also pulling in some of these other things that are essential for full child health.
Yeah, definitely. I will say gardening sounds like physical movement to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I dropped in a link, Angelica. If folks are looking for kid-friendly recipes, if you're looking to expand cooking in the work that you do, Healthier Generation teamed up with Del Monte to create some kid-friendly recipes. So I dropped that link in there. What I like about them is that we're working to reduce stigma around using canned fruits and vegetables, because we know that not all young people have access to fresh fruits and vegetables. So there's like a taco recipe made with canned corn that's like incredibly delicious. So folks can check that out.
Wonderful. B, you have a great question in here. Do you want to actually keep that question? I'm going to move to the, just kind of say about our next slide is, we're going to have a group discussion on just the data that we just looked at. And I'm going to copy my questions really quick and put them in the chat, because I think I want us to have like a 5-minute discussion here about the data and questions that you have. So I'm going to go back to the data slide on what youth said they thought was missing. And I'd ask that B come off and kind of explain your question a little more, and then we can just continue discussing this data.
Yeah, my mindset is, look, a lot of our rural communities in the state are primarily Alaska Native, and like they don't have access to traditional grocery stores without going on planes or boats to get to them, and it takes a long time. And I think with some of like, I guess with federal funding, it's like, here's for easy access to food, like veggies, it's like, here's canned foods that you can get at the grocery stores. And how do you cook those kind of things, rather than like we're out hunting for moose or ptarmigan or whatever is locally available in those communities. So like, how do you make that connection on what's locally available in the communities versus what, maybe state or federal money is kind of expecting from programs?
I think that's a really good question.
Yeah. I feel like B, I think that's a good opportunity to think about partnerships, and if there are farmers or associations or community members who can come into the programming to talk about history and culture and preparation, and how young people can share and learn those skills. Creating a cookbook together. We actually just worked on an intergenerational cookbook with some partners. So those are great ways to share that knowledge as well, and create a product that can then be distributed and lift up like the power of storytelling that's inside that comes with farming and traditional ways of cooking and preparing food. I feel like what an amazing wealth of knowledge your students and community have, that a lot of kids around the country could benefit from, is learning about those traditional food pathways. Yeah, and Trey put in
That's what I was just thinking. B, are you connected with the Alaska Afterschool Network in Alaska?
Yeah, our program is. Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, that was a great question. And I know Daniel will have resources at well, we've already put them throughout, but you'll get a list of resources that he had connected to. But I think if you have more questions, I don't know, Daniel, you might have other partners that have work in Alaska that help. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, B, another great partner to check out is the Food Research and Action Center. I'll put their link in here. They are definitely the experts when it comes to after school and summer meal programs. So sort of, I know if that's like a facet of the question of leveraging local food pathways to actually serving after school snacks and meals. They're a tremendous resource in understanding how to navigate the paperwork and find partners who can help food access.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah. Great resource. So from there, I'm curious to hear, either you can put in the chat or come off mute. Are any of these items, maybe the top, 3 or 4, are they taking place in your program now? And what does that look like? So is anybody working on more programming around cooking, physical movement, learning how to manage money, gardening, or even entrepreneurship? So curious about that. And if not, what could that look like? Are there any partners in your community that you could work with?
Well, Angelica, as folks are thinking, I can just throw out some resources.
Mhm.
For undercooking, there's a really great organization called Cooking Matters. They have nutrition enrichment, nutrition education resources. Under physical movement, one of my favorite partners is Go Noodle. They have simple videos that you can show in your after school program. You can share with kids, families as well, that are just like fun, active. They have a lot of music. They're just great videos. So that's Go Noodle.
That's fun. I like the name Go Noodle.
And the National Recreation and Park Association has tons of resources on all things outdoors, so gardening, outdoor activities, even how that connects in with mental health and wellness. So I'll write those in the chat.
Wonderful. I'll give about another 30 seconds to see if anybody wants to come off mute and share how they think they might incorporate these into their programs. Oh, thanks, Liz, for those resources. Yes, Venture Lab. Good friends with Venture Lab. They're great. There's also 220 Leadership. They have a great curriculum. All right, well, we will keep moving. We have a few more slides to get through. So thank you for the resources and the discussion on that piece, because one really, really fantastic, awesome, Liz, that you love 220, about this data is the qualitative piece. So the research question that we wanted to look into, I should also say I was on the advisory committee for this project. So that's how I got connected to the work. And one of the questions was, how do you think after school can be more meaningful in the lives of young people? And the way they did this question is they asked a different question. And they asked them, if you were in charge of starting a new after school program that is meaningful to you, what would it look like? And of all the collective responses, the overall theme was you would feel the love when you walked in. And when I read that, it hit me hard because I was thinking about my after school program that I ran, and I would get in the program at 2:30 and the kids will start running in at 3. And I just needed 15 more minutes. I get in, I'm setting up the cafeteria, putting out the rugs, sitting in the carpet or standing up the centers, trying to meet with my team, trying to get everything ready for the parents and licensing. And so when the students came in, I immediately made them go sit down, get out their homework, or start reading. I almost needed it silent because I needed 15 more minutes to just get organized for my program. And I didn't at that time because I had been at the site for a year. And then the next year I was the only staff member left. And they're like, you're going to be our new site director. And I'm like, okay. So it was just so brand new to me. I did not know what I was doing. And I was like, when my kids walked in, they did not feel the love. I may have loved them and I was making sure I had everything set up for their success, but they did not know that. They just thought, Miss Portillo is really mean. She makes us read and she makes us do our homework. Luckily, throughout the year that transitioned, I was able to do other things with my program and not have them just come in and sit quiet. But, it took a lot to finally get to the point in my program where I could have the flexibility to have a very welcoming moment when they walked in. So I'm sure if you worked in after school long enough, you'd have similar experiences. But the other things that came from this data is that they were looking for, a safe and welcoming environment, a program that prepares them for their future, a balance between learning and fun, engaging in a variety of activities, and having that supportive adult and peers, which someone had mentioned earlier, like almost to the T, and then providing tangible resources. But really at the center of all of that, they really want their voice heard and leadership opportunities within the programs. And so to kind of look at the data a little more and get you all familiar with the research that has been put out, we're going to drop a link in the chat that gives you that access to the entire survey. And I want you all to find, and I have a visual representation, the third research question that you'll see. It's like, if you were in charge of starting a new after school program, that was meaningful to you, what would it look like? So scroll until you find it. And I would love for two people to read one of the quotes on any of the sections about what the students had said. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. Let me put the link is in the chat. Excellent. So I'll give you 2 minutes. The first two people that can find a quote and answer about what youth would find, what they would do that was meaningful to them for their programs. It's like a hide and search, or what did you call it, Daniel? It's not scavenger hunt. I was like, it's not hide and seek.
I dropped mine in the chat, Angelica. I think I did it correctly. I love this quote.
Yep. I think there should be an equal balance between learning and doing fun things, because it really motivates people to come to the program. And that's what we want, right? We want youth to show up because we know that it's impactful for them, not only to the students, but to the families overall, and the communities and the school. A welcoming environment where youth are supported in many different ways. Also, parental input and involvement encouraged. Absolutely. I think the beautiful thing about after school, and also the challenging part, is you're working with the schools, the community, and families, and coordinating all of these efforts for the well-being of the child, and all while also trying to maintain a program with 50 to 100 kids that are running around everywhere. So it's a balancing act. I would start a program that amplifies the voices of youth and marginalized individuals, and gives marginalized individuals a chance. That's a very mature answer. I think someone else also said it was very mature in the things that they found that were missing. So thank you all for doing the scavenger hunt and looking at that. And as I mentioned, now you have the data for Powered by Youth Voice. And at the end, there's a survey, so you can see what the students said. Again, it was co-created, so you can see how the students wanted to ask these questions. And this is the data from how students responded. And we'll keep moving on because we only have 9 minutes together left. So again, all encompassing, youth really wanted their voices at the center. They also wanted to have programs that felt welcoming, and students want to get out of their comfort zone. They want to try new things, all again, while having fun and feeling safe in a place that you provide. So for our kind of last discussion question is, of all the survey data that was presented, what stands out to you from the Powered by Youth Voice survey? You can put in the chat, you can come off mute, whatever you feel comfortable with, but what stands out to you?
Angelica, I've seen you present this data multiple times now, and it still just surprises me that cooking is so high on the list of what kids want to learn about. And I know we talked about that in South Carolina, but like the different types of it could be cooking, it could be prep, it could look so different, so many different ways. But giving young people those types of skills. So, but that stands out to me, just surprises me.
Yeah, it seems like Nikki agrees with that, cooking. And then the money management piece. We in South Carolina, one of our participants in the room was gonna, making a long story short, was gonna take her students to do a walking tour of her like little city downtown area. And she's like, one thing she wanted to do was take students to the bank. And then she saw this data And she was like, okay, I definitely need to take them to the bank and kind of just have that relationship with a bank in general. So I think even Devin kind of alluded to it earlier. He's like, these young people know what they want. They've already seen these, challenges at home or even at school, what they're not getting in school. And how can we provide that in after school? That was the other thing that stood out to me, is like all of those things. And Stephanie, I don't know if she's on the call, but Stephanie kind of alluded to that too, right? Like these things are not happening in school because teachers already have a whole other agenda that they need to do, and they're not getting it at home. So that place is our place, and out of school time is to provide these opportunities for these youth. Yeah, as Kathy said, so many topics. All right, well, with our last few minutes, before we end the call, we would like you to just take a minute or two, or really a minute, to just, well, we won't talk anymore. We'll just let you reflect on one of these questions, whichever you choose, which is, how do you plan to further center youth voice in decisions related to your organization or program? And who do you need to share this new knowledge with? So we'll give you 1 minute on the clock to reflect on that. Nikki, I really like that parking lot where students and families can put what programs they would like to participate in. Yep. I think that's a great idea. Really, just, there's so many ways. I mean, I think we modeled it today. There's so many ways you can ask or engage with students, right? Like you can do a good stretching activity and kind of say, hey, what would you guys like to see next week in program or something, right? Or have them draw out what they would like to see in programs. It doesn't need to be, a really not, I mean, there's a survey at the end of this, but it doesn't have to be that in depth. It could be a really informal conversation that you have with students because they clearly know what they want. So I'm now going to hand it over to Daniel to share another resource and kind of close us out here.
Awesome. Well, if you're here with us live, you're watching the recording, I hope everyone gives some snaps to Angelica for this data and being one of the voices behind the actual creation and of the survey. So powerful. I love seeing what folks are writing in the chat about how they're going to use this and share it with other folks. So I wanted to highlight an opportunity. The National Healthy Schools Youth Council is looking for new members. This is a partner organization of Healthier Generation. And the application is open right now. So if you know of young people who want to be more involved, who want to take a leadership role at the national level, especially around health and wellness, definitely check this opportunity out. The link, thank you, Anna. The link to the Facebook post is in the chat. And if you have any questions, just let me know and I can connect you with my teammates who are leading this work. But wanted to give you an opportunity that's open right now for your young people. And B, I'll just say that if you have young people in Alaska, I think those would be incredible voices to have on this council. So anything we can do to help spread the word and help you out would be here to help. So Anna, I don't know, any closing questions or anything? Anna, thank you, Afterschool HQ for having us.
Thank you both so much. This was truly awesome, and you guys were great. And thank you everyone for participating. Just a quick reminder, we'll be sending a follow-up email with the recording and the links that were shared today. And again, thank you guys so much. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.